Good day, farmers. Welcome to Orbit Farm. We are now in our week. We're now going towards week 4 of our broiler farming. Just wanted to show you we have now moved them out of the brooder. As I said, the gazebo is now going to be the one that is being used for the chickens, whilst we still finish off the housing for the chickens. So where we are right now, this is where the chickens are, and they are actually in a very nice little place, and we have made sure that we have bedded them nicely, made sure that there's enough water, enough food, enough ventilation, so that they grow much better. Now that they're in their week 4, they need a lot of ventilation, they need a lot of air, they need a place whereby it's not that too hot or it's too cold for them to now do the consumption, because now there's no more heating that we are providing for them. But now this is whereby things become more interesting about our chickens. What do we then do? Next question that I was asked and which I needed to answer is making our own feed cheap. Cheap feeds, yes, it is good making cheap feeds, but cheap feeds are very complicated. And I will talk about the 3 types of birds that are in Zimbabwe. Types of birds that we have got our layers, we've got our broilers, and we have got our roadrunners. Those are the 3 types of birds that are available here in Zimbabwe. So them being available means that each of them have got their own kind of ingredients that is needed for them to eat and for them to grow fast. But for now, the broiler, is there a cheap way of feeding this? Yes, there is. There's actually ratios of how to make cheap feed for broilers. But is it recommended? I tell you 100% not recommended for you to do it. Unless you are a person who has been doing this for years and years and is now very comfortable in knowing how to do it. But if you're a novice or a person who has never done it, I tell you, do not go down this route, because that is one route that you are going to have a heart attack with. Because of the complexity in the food, you will definitely get it wrong. These are the reasons why I tell you that you will not get it right. 1, it is complex making the foods. That's one thing that I can tell you. Getting it wrong, the chances of you getting it wrong are extremely high. And another thing that is very important is getting the ingredients. You may not always find the ingredients that you need to get these broilers the food that they need to grow. Those are the major things, which I believe are the most dangerous thing. So for me, I will not even try and give you a cheap way of making broiler feeds, because I just believe that the best way to do broiler feeds is to make sure that you just go and buy the broiler feed already mixed for you. You will get the concentrates where they tell you take these concentrates, mix them with basically maize brand or wheat brand and a bit of the other premixes. But I just don't believe that you doing that, going down that route, you will actually make any profit out of it. So for a person who's doing this, I just believe that the straight feeds is the best way to go. Don't even try to complicate the matter. Don't even try to find ways of doing it until you're actually probably doing this and you are really doing it on a large scale and you're very, very confident about doing it, and you have someone who is looking at it or who is monitoring it, especially when you do the preparation of these feeds. These feeds, I don't want to lie to you, are not the easiest things to do, especially for broilers. Then we go into our next zone of, do we make feeds for layers? Yes, I believe that for layers we should make feeds, and the reason why I do say we should make feeds for layers is because the time and the quantity, the length that it takes for them before they start laying. But if you're also a person who's not very comfortable with it, I always say go for your straight feed. Yes, it becomes extremely expensive, because if I'm correct, from first week to about 24 weeks before they start laying, you're almost going to spend about 1,500 just for 100 birds on feed alone. Almost 1,500 just on feed. So I believe that when you go down that route, you really need to be very comfortable with yourself, very much knowing that you're going to be doing it, and especially when you're taking the the Ross chickens, the ones which are actually coming from, which are actually breeding for eggs. So I believe that that is when you really can say to yourself, do you go for mixing? Yes, you need to go for mixing. There are ways around doing it. Tell you a few ways about doing it. First, we will need you need to follow the feeding program. There is obviously you need to know about the starter, how many weeks it is. All these things have got different mixtures. Starter has got its own mixture. Growers has got its own mixture, and then when it's point of laying, it's got its own mixture, and when they start laying, they've got their own mixture. So all those points of laying, of mixing, you need to be very much knowledgeable about them and the quantities. There are a lot of companies which will give you their mixing programs, but if you decide to start with one company, in between once you're growing them, do not mix, do not change, because once you start changing, you're not too sure what you're doing and where you're going. So if you start off with one feed program from one company, don't then change going to another feed mix program, because most chances of you getting it wrong will be very high. And also at that point in time, for layers, I always say that you should also then have a chance whereby you actually weigh them according to the stages that they need to be at, to see that your feed mixing program, is it correct? Have you got the quantities correct? The basic things which are mainly found also for layers is maize, wheat bran, soya, sunflower, and the premix that you will need. Those are the basic ingredients that you do need to make sure. So making sure that you mix all these things correctly is a must. Because if you don't mix them correctly, you will not get your chickens to get to the right weight, and then you start wondering why are they not laying, and you will now be worried about it. So you need to make sure that if you're going down this route from the first week to the 24th week, please make sure that you follow one program. Don't just mix the programs, because if you do mix the programs, you are going to get it wrong. So that is a very important thing about layers. Layers, also another thing that you need to be then very much aware about layers is that you need to make sure that the water that you're giving them is clean. Clean water is very, very important towards layers, because if you do not give in fact, to all birds, it is very important that you give clean water, because if you don't give clean water, it also hampers them on their digestive system, and making sure that they do have water available all the time is very, very important, because you want them to grow. Growing means that they also need to make sure that what they're eating, they are digesting. So it's very important that we go down that route. Then for our roadrunners, or what other people will call them local birds, these, like to you, I would say definitely go for the mixing program, because these ones are also going to be on free range. Being on free range means that you are having opportunity for them to feed for themselves. It's just very simple. To me, I know that the mixtures are very simple. It's mainly your concentrate plus your maize brand plus whatever you want to then add into it. But it's normally maize bran and the concentrate. Those are the two things that are very important. And the major thing is also for them to be on free range. That is also a very big plus that you should also then be able to go. For those people who want me to do a video on how to do the mixing of these programs, I can do them for you, and I will just see with your feedbacks that do you want to know them. But for broilers, I will give very hesitantly about the mixing and what programs you need to use. But again, as I said, there are so many programs, but the programs which, as I say, you need to make sure that you do not mix the programs from one. If you decide that you're starting one feed program, do not then say in between, let me use another different feed program. The minute you do that, you will find that your chickens will get stunt growth, or they will, because of the new way of you mixing, it will be very difficult. And I also believe that if you really want to do mixing program of feed, it is best to do your whole batch at once. For example, I've got this 100 chickens. I need, if they're saying that for me to finish my starter, it needs 100 kgs. It means that before I even start my mixing program, I should have enough ingredients to mix that 100 kgs at once, so that I mix once and I do not then have to in between start mixing again or trying to do new ratios, because the minute you start doing that is the minute you will also start making sure that you start getting some of these you're getting some of these ratios wrong. You are also not making sure that the quality of your feed may start being different. So I tell you that it is best that when you start doing all this mixing for yourself, chip is expensive, and I don't want to lie to you. Chip is expensive in certain areas, and at the same time, not only is it chip is expensive, but getting the right ingredients is very important when you want to do it yourself. Yes, it is cheap. You will probably cut down a few dollars here and there, but at the end of the day, is it worth it that sometimes things don't grow? But if you're making sure that you're doing it correctly, then they will grow, and you will be a champion or a winner when it comes to that. But for me, as I said, these good friends of mine, the white birds, I do not mess around with. I just believe buying the mix directly is correct. For layers and Roadrunners, yes. So, to all those people, thank you very much for watching these videos. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And please keep on subscribing, growing this channel, because you're the ones who grow this channel. You're the ones who give me the time to come and do all these things and to try to give you as much information as possible. Please keep on subscribing, liking, and giving your comments. Thank you very much, and I hope I've answered those people who ask for cheap feeds. Cheap feeds are not always cheap. They can become very expensive. Thank you and have a good day.